everyone. I hope that you guys will not fall asleep with what I'm going to tell you, a very pretty dry topic. And I actually run a biodiesel company. It started 5 years ago, which was actually brought me a lot of insight about how and why sustainability was actually important. And today I hope to share with you guys perhaps some insights that I came across and some ideas that we could really look into probably in the next 10 years. Now, I had a chance meeting with Peter Schwartz. Does anybody know who he is? He's a very well-known futurist, and really what a futurist does is think about the future and create scenarios about how human beings can exist in the world in 2050, 2060, you know, and things like that. And he pointed out a very interesting fact, is that in the last 10 years, the planet has seen a whole scenario of escalating crisis. And each one is more complex than the last one. Really, if you start thinking from September 11, 2001 till now, 10 years, how many crises have you all really seen? I could just list a few. Now, we start with September 11. And then because of September 11, we had a war, right? And then the war thing continues with Afghanistan, Iraq, and then right until now, we're still trying to deal with it. The world is still trying to deal with it. And then in the middle of trying to deal with all this, we also have a situation where places are flooding, right? That we have Katrina coming in, and we have a few typhoons that came in even to Myanmar. People died, lost their lives, lost their houses and stuff. And coupled with those things happening, we have earthquakes, Sichuan earthquake, the earthquake in Japan, right? And next thing you know, financial crisis. So we have to deal with terrorism, we have to deal with a war, we have to deal with cyclones, hurricanes, earthquakes, and then we have to deal with nuclear, all within the last 10 years. While we sit in this room in a very nice, secure environment in Singapore, the whole world is going through this complex problem of trying to deal with one problem, one crisis, and as the crisis is still developing, the next one happens. And what does it mean to all of us human beings and people like you and me is that our world gets very cluttered and complex, not because of the way we want it to be, but because it's just the way the world is. And compared to this, images like this may be less important, right? Climate change, we can still deal with it after the crisis ends. We can solve the financial crisis, then we deal with climate change. We can solve the earthquake problem and then the Fukushima issues, then we go back to talk about climate change. We can continue to stay status quo about the situation that we are in with regards to global warming and all these issues while we try to solve the rest of the crisis. But I guess the fact is that we cannot do this anymore. Many people have the idea that we can worry about all these issues later, right? The rising global temperature, emissions issues, the pollution issues that we have. These are things that we can think about later, right? For all you guys who are still undergrads, probably the idea is, well, let me graduate first, and then I can get a job. Let me get a job first, then I'll deal with it. And then when you get a job, let me find a house first, then I'll deal with it. And then when we have a house, it says, let me have a kid first, then we'll deal with it. And when you have a kid, they say, oh, let the kid grow up, then we can deal with it. By the time the kid grows up, well, let the kid handle it. And I can assure you that many of us think the same way. How do we approach then the idea of sustainability when we are in such a very, very complex world? There are many, many global leaders who come up with fabulous ideas, Kyoto Protocol, green initiatives, carbon trading, all sorts of new technology, renewable energies, and stuff like that. And it all deals with the idea that we can do things with big impact only with big people or the big governments, big corporations, big MNCs. So for example, we try to provide clean water for everyone to drink, right? So this is a very important thing. Clean drinking water is official right. It's a right for everyone, every human being on earth. And therefore, in trying to create that we have created plastic bottled water, which is fabulous. All of you have a plastic bottle on your table. You take it, you bring it anywhere, you open the cap, and it's clean drinking water. It's a fabulous idea, right? The water bottle companies love the idea. They sell tons and tons of water like that. And the next thing you know, in trying to create water bottles to put water for you to have safe drinking water, we create this, which is pollution because the water bottles keep getting thrown away, gets into the sea, gets into the ocean, gets into all the beautiful places that you want to be in. And suddenly people say, okay, we'll put a stop to it. Okay, so we have to solve the drinking clean water problem by creating water bottles, and then we create pollution and says, okay, now we have to solve that problem. So again, people start to say, oh, we can recycle these bottles. Let's recycle this. Let's collect all the bottles, spend some time, energy, and resources to crush that bottles into chips, and then we make new bottles again. Wow, what a wonderful idea. So we started things like this. This is in China. They call it social recycling, meaning people actually make money out of doing this in huge quantity. People go around the streets picking up bottles like this. And then it accumulates to things like this. And then, even better still, the European countries, the far more advanced countries, says, wow, we could even automate the idea of you recycling bottles. You put this into the hole in the middle, and then some computer gadgets will happen, and then you get a refund of 2 euros, 20 cents euro. But really, does it really solve the problem? Actually, the real problem that they were trying to solve is just to provide clean drinking water for people. So this whole idea of recycling may actually have to warrant some kind of thinking, right? Do we really need to sit in this room to drink bottled water where the tap water in Singapore is drinkable? Have you ever thought about that? And have you ever thought about how we can actually make clean drinking water available to everyone on Earth without using plastic? That is to say, we have to change the paradigm about how we do things. Now, really, about 20 million tons of plastic rubbish is being transported from one place to another place. If you read the internet a little bit more, you'll realize that about 30% of those plastics are contaminated beyond recycling. And many of the times, this recycling actually happen in a very pollutive environment. So it costs time, it costs us carbon, it costs us energy just to recycle plastic. Now, if we could rethink and reprioritize and have some resolution about what we could do with a simple problem of providing water. Say we have to provide water for the developing countries. Simple ideas like providing water bottles. That is a rethinking of how we could contain water, right? Plastic reusable bottles like this, at this current moment, cost next to nothing, really cheap. Right? We could provide a lot of this for people to, in developing countries who have no access to water, to actually contain clean water. And the latest technology even allows for bottles like this to come with special coating that can be antibacterial. That is wonderful. Next, can we then implement an infrastructure of having refueling stations all around Singapore, or all around the city, all around your countries? These are just simple things of tapping in, having an elaborate, simple infrastructure of water pipes, and going through and having people start to bottle their own water. And finally, having the resolution of building water plants. Now, we may not see that in Singapore as a very important thing because we switch on the tap and it works. In many countries, it doesn't work, right? In many developing countries, with the availability of bottled water, governments put aside the idea of having their own publicly run, publicly owned water treatment system because it's just too expensive, it's just too difficult. Why not let the private company make a buck of it and continue to do so, right? So these are things that I thought was important in the future. To create a more sustainable society, it doesn't really start with big money, big MNCs, big government. Sometimes simple ideas like this works. Now, really, when we start talking about 3 Rs, all of us know that it's recycle, reuse, reduce, and recycle. Everybody just continue to do the same thing, right? We throw the plastic into the correct bin, we give ourselves a pat on the back, and we feel good about it. Do we really know what happens to it? Do we really want to know where it ends up to and what's the global impact on it? Well, some of us do, others may not. But the net effect is, people tend to think that when we continue to do this, reuse, reduce, recycle, we are just doing the right thing. But does it warrant some kind of rethinking? And I'm trying to challenge the forum here on a new way of thinking. The new 3 Rs that I'm proposing today will be to rethink, to reprioritize, and to have some resolve. And that is really important. Can we actually rethink our energy needs? Can we actually rethink our climate change issues and have some reprioritization of things? Now, we know that, take for example, you as a graduate, your first priority, a job. And second priority, a better job or house or getting married, stuff like that. The 5 Cs, whatever. But can you actually rethink about what is actually very important for you guys about the future? The sustainability of our environment. Can we start to rethink about that as well? Rethink the plastic bottle. Rethink your transport modes. All of us aspire to have a car. Or I do, right, when I was a undergrad. But rethinking this really helps. What about reprioritization? Every country currently and every big company, top priority is economic growth. That's always the top. And the market in the world, the open market, the stock market, do not price in the fact that you are carbon friendly, you are future-proof. Maybe you are, they price in a little bit for it, but they certainly never price in for the fact that you create a lot of CSR projects, you are actually good for Earth or the humanity. Can companies like this start to reprioritize some of these initiatives? That being the first in the world in terms of economy is not the key thing, but being a leader in humanity, in global warming technologies or measures could be the next thing that countries need to reprioritize. Now, what about resolve? Really, when you can start to wax lyrical about the idea of rethinking and reprioritizing, the whole idea is you will always stay like this if you do not have the resolve to do it. And we see many countries trying to put in a lot of initiatives to be sustainable, to be more, to use more renewable energy and stuff like that, but a lot of them fail. Why? Because when it reaches to where it really matters, the pocket, it does not matter, it does not help, right? It does not work because countries just lack resolve. Now, I wanted to continue to talk about a very interesting project that we do to really showcase the fact that individuals could help. Now, we talk about the plastic bottles. It has always been a fascination for me because I just hate that thing. I just hate the bottle. So we and a few other guys got together and said, well, how do we tell people about this? If I were to put 5,000 bottles here, all used, ugly, and dirty, with you guys, and I say, hey, please recycle, half of you will think I'm crazy, the other half of you will just walk out of the room. But so we challenged ourselves to do something very interesting. And we created a project that combines 3,000, 5,000 art pieces made out of recycling plastic. You can see one of them right at the end of the stage. There is a little windmill on top of the stage, not the room, the stage. Yeah, right there. And it's made with a plastic windmill. And it's made with a recycled plastic. Yeah, camouflage. We made 3,000 pieces of this. We mounted on a light art sculpture. We had people coming in every night to make one of these things to bring home and learn about recycling, about plastic bottles. And guess what? This was a project called In Celebration. It was showcased last year in the Marina Light Art Festival. And guess what? 1 million people came in to look at it. But the crux of the thing was, it wasn't a project that was created by us. It was a project that was created by the people, the 150 volunteers that came together to try to do something different. And with that idea, they actually went on to talk to almost another 150 other volunteers, and 1 million people came to a festival to look at this last year. It was an interesting project because this is how it exactly looked like. The sculpture is 5.8 meters, and it actually installed with LED lights, low energy LED lights, as well as you can see on top of the sculpture, these are all the windmills, thousands of it that was made, each by an individual who walked by, and taking the message home that the little bit actually counts. Now, another crazy idea I want to share with you today. This behind is not a pile of soil. This is actually coffee. The coffee that you drink every day has the residue. 88% of the nutrients that is locked in the coffee doesn't go into the drink. It stays in the coffee bean itself after it's being used. So my guys in Alpha Biofuels, we were looking at how we could extract 12% of this oil into biodiesel. So we started a whole series of very fancy stuff. We distillated, we cracked it, we roasted, we did everything we could to draw out 12% of oil. And we made biodiesel of it, and we were happy with it. But we realized it's not going to be financially feasible because 1 liter of biodiesel made with coffee is going to cost us $5. And my researchers, being researchers, they were quite lazy, and they left the residue there for a few days. And we realized mold starting to grow on it. And mold started to grow so fast that we thought, hey, that's a good idea to try to do something about it. So we came up with a very crazy idea, and we went to Starbucks, and we asked them, how much coffee do you really have? Well, they said, we have tons of it if you really want to collect it. So we said, fine. So we create this big scheme where we take coffee and we compost it, and we then try to bring it to a community farm. And for those of you staying in the HDB flats, those are areas in between HDB flats where you see senior citizens growing stuff there, and it's sometimes messy, and most of the time when there's a dengue fever festival season, people will go there and start to fork out the place. We went there and we tried to get the school students to try to get this, and then try to get them to plant some stuff, and try to get Starbucks to buy them back, and then try to get Starbucks to sell them to you guys. Trust me, it's all safe. So this is the crazy scheme that we came out of, and we went to talk to people. And we went to talk to so many people that suddenly it doesn't become crazy anymore because they really came in and helped. So we went to the school, and we tried to ask them to try to grow this and try to test it out. Yunnan School is one of those, but we have so many schools doing it with us that suddenly people are writing science paper out of it. The German schools had written 2 papers out of it, and now we have even university researchers going into this. And they started growing plots and plots of stuff. And the next thing we know is to sell the idea to the old folks. Now, we don't forget that there are old folks, seriously, who doesn't believe in any of this. The old folks in the senior citizens just want to do their daily thing, you know, don't kind of bother me too much. Huh? What is Starbucks? I've never even heard of it before. But, you know, we brought the old folks to understand this, do a lot of sweet talking to them. The next thing is we also talked to the young guys. And things started to roll fast. And what we did was then we were given a plot of land. And this plot of land was built with young people. And really, we will never imagine Singaporeans to be farmers. And these guys come, they are weekend farmers. They still want their job. They still want to have a family, their car and everything. But on the weekends, they come in, they start to build this. And this was actually officiated with Dr. Jane Goodall. We were really happy when she was here. She came in and then she put a handprint, and we were happy planting stuff for a while. And this is what happens when we started to plant in day 1, in 0, right? So that was about 2 months ago, or 1.5 months ago. This is what happens after 1 month when you use coffee as the main fertilizer. We basically unlocked a very interesting fertilizer that could be used. So really, we call this place Khaki Square because there are a lot of khakis. For those of you who don't understand, khaki means friend in Malay, I think. And you can see from here a very unique example of Singaporean youth who you think will never be a farmer, getting their hands dirty and trying their best to talk in a dialect that the auntie will understand. It's very interesting to see a Malay trying to speak Hokkien and Chinese trying to speak Teochew. And really funny because it's really hilarious when the young guys try to speak about all these dialects. And come harvesting. Everybody just harvests every week. And we have so much deal. This is actually deal. The growing out of our heads that we are trying to find people who wants to have it, really. So if you guys want to have a lot of deal to eat in your salad or whatever, just come and pluck it. It's free. I'll bring some coffee in that sense. So really, the whole idea about what we can do to rethink and reprioritize and have some resolve is really this, creating that positive social behavior amongst all of us that perhaps the idea from there will grow. And once the idea grows, it will become, it will have a life of its own. It will evolve, and it will continue to evolve to a point where it's just amazing. And you can just stand at Khaki Square today and feel that so much energy, positivity coming out of it that it's just simply wonderful. And I invite all of you guys to come out, into the warm and sunny place there and feed a bit of mosquitoes with us. And so therefore, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.